All right, we're about to talk about a plant that is so infamous it actually has a body count. You look at it and you'd think it's harmless, it's soft, it's green, but it's hiding one of the most sophisticated, most agonizing defense mechanisms on the entire planet. This is the Gympie-Gympie.
And look, that is not an exaggeration. That's the description you hear over and over from anyone who's had the horrible luck of just brushing up against this thing. It is a pain so immediate, so overwhelming, it's just on another level.
And those names? Yeah, they're not just for show, they are earned. The name suicide plant comes from some truly harrowing stories. We're talking tales from the 1860s of horses getting so maddened by the pain that they died within hours. There's even a story of a soldier who, well, after using a leaf for toilet paper, reportedly took his own life. So that's the big question, right? How in the world does a simple-looking plant develop a weapon that's not just painful, but incredibly complex, ridiculously long-lasting, and just devilishly clever in its design? Well, to figure it out, we've got to look at two things: the delivery system and the payload.
Okay, so first up, let's look at that delivery system. This plant is, and I mean this literally, armed to the teeth. It's covered in a biological arsenal that makes sure its venom finds a target with the slightest, lightest touch. It's an army of tiny glass needles, and they are everywhere. You see, the whole plant, the leaves, the stems, even the fruit, is covered in what looks like a fine, fuzzy fur. But they're not soft hairs. These are called trichomes, and they are microscopic hollow needles made of silica, which is the same stuff in glass, making them incredibly sharp and brittle. And the process is just brutally efficient. You brush against a leaf, and the tip of that little glass needle snaps right off at a weak point, making this perfectly sharp opening. The pressure inside the hair acts like a syringe, injecting the venom deep into your skin. And here's the kicker: the needle itself gets stuck in there. And because it's basically glass, your body can't break it down. It just stays there for months, re-triggering that agonizing pain whenever you touch the area, rub it, or even just splash cold water on it. Oh, and as if that wasn't terrifying enough, you don't even have to touch it. The plant is constantly shedding these tiny needles into the air around it. Botanists who study this thing have to wear full-on respirators because just being near it can cause horrible sneezing fits, nosebleeds, and serious respiratory pain. So we've got the delivery system down, an army of microscopic glass needles. But what about the payload? What in the world is in the venom that they're injecting? This is where the story gets really, really fascinating. You know, for the longest time, scientists were stumped. They assumed the pain had to be from simple stuff like formic acid or histamine, the kind of things you find in regular stinging nettles. But those chemicals could never explain the sheer intensity or why the pain from a Gympie-Gympie sting lasts for months. The real culprit was a complete mystery, until very, very recently. Then, in 2020, everything changed. Researchers finally isolated the true source of the pain, a family of complex little molecules, mini proteins, that they named gympietides right after the plant itself. And these are not simple chemicals. We're talking stable, intricately folded molecules that are unbelievably potent. Now, the really interesting part here is what's called the folding motif. It's known as an inhibitor cysteine knot, or ICK. The best way to think about it is like a molecule that has tied itself into a knot, which makes it incredibly stable and almost impossible to break down. It's so stable, in fact, that 100-year-old dried museum samples of the plant can still give you a painful sting. And here it is, the absolute bombshell. That exact same molecular structure, that inhibitor cysteine knot, is also found in the neurotoxins of some of the world's most venomous animals, like funnel web spiders and cone snails. This is just a mind-blowing example of what's called convergent evolution. A plant, all on its own, evolved to create a venom that is structurally identical to one from a deadly animal. So, you've got this animal-like venom, but it's coming from a plant. How does it actually manage to cause so much pain? Well, it does it by hijacking the fundamental wiring of your nervous system. It basically turns your own body against you. So, deep inside your pain-sensing nerves, you have millions of tiny little pores called sodium channels. And one in particular, NaV 1.7, is basically the body's master switch for pain. When it opens, a pain signal zaps to your brain. When it closes, the signal stops. Simple as that. But here's the thing. The gympietides toxin doesn't just flick the switch on. No, it acts like a molecular clamp. It grabs onto that channel and physically locks it in the open position. It literally cannot close. And the result? A non-stop, uncontrolled, agonizing flood of pain signals being fired to your brain over and over and over. But wait, the story gets even more complex. Just last year, in 2023, scientists found another critical piece of the puzzle. It turns out that master pain switch, NaV 1.7, doesn't work alone. It's got a partner protein sitting right next to it called TMEM233. And this just shows how sophisticated this toxin really is. The gympietide can't just go and lock the pain switch by itself. First, it has to bind to this partner protein, TMEM233, and only then can that combined package go and jam the NaV 1.7 channel open. It's a two-part key system, which helps explain why the pain is so specific and so incredibly hard to treat. So we have this botanical monster, a product of some bizarre evolutionary arms race. But here's the ultimate twist in the story. The very same molecule that causes this unimaginable pain might actually hold the key to relieving it. First off, why is it so extreme? Well, the best guess is that this nuclear defense system evolved millions of years ago to fight off giant herbivores. We're talking about Australia's extinct megafauna. Those giant animals are long gone, but the plant, well, it never got the memo to power down its weapons. And for modern humans, that is a huge problem. A study looking at hospital cases found that 60% of people stung by this plant needed opioids for the pain. But here's the catch. Even powerful drugs like morphine are often reported to barely touch the pain because they don't target the specific pain channel that the gympietide has hijacked. And this is the paradox and the incredible promise. Because we now know the exact molecule, the exact pain channel, and the exact partner protein it needs, we can use the gympietide as a blueprint. Think about it. If the plant's toxin is the perfect key to lock the pain switch open, then maybe scientists can design a new drug, a kind of reverse key that uses that same mechanism to lock it closed. And that leaves us with a truly fascinating final thought. Could it be that this terrifying plant, the source of legendary agony for centuries, could end up being the source of a revolutionary new class of non-opioid painkillers? It just goes to show, sometimes to find the ultimate cure for pain, you first have to understand its most extreme and terrifying cause.